based on the fundamental principles of human rights, equality, and sustainability. I'd like to give the first speech to Aitan Grossman. Okay, sir. Yeah. Give the floor to Aitan Grossman. He's a student, as I know. And that is very symbolic that we give the floor to the generation, and this is a major idea of this whole movement. It's about the young generation. That's for me a pleasure to give the floor to you. Please.
My generation has a unique stake in our planet's future. As Vice President Al Gore puts it, a stake that provides the world a powerful force of moral clarity. These words have stayed with me for much of my youth. President Guy Jochen has honored me with an invitation to the Summit on Global Ethics to share with you this morning my path to creating the future we want. When I was in third grade, the world absolutely fascinated me. That year, what fascinated me most was Manti, a 1-inch praying mantis I found outside my bedroom window and kept as a pet. One Saturday morning that year, my life changed. That morning, my parents gave me this book, An Inconvenient Truth by Al Gore. I learned about the vast destruction of the earth adults had inadvertently caused, and about the harm that was being done to animals like Manti and their habitats. That morning, I knew I had to do something to help. Fast forward 4 years, age 12. My first attempt to do something big was a project I called Kid Earth, where I married my love for music with environmental action. I wrote a song about global warming called 100 Generations. With the help from family and friends, I recorded it with 100 children from around the world, and I distributed it on iTunes and the internet for other children to sing in their language or mine, so we could raise awareness about climate change together. Word of 100 Generations made its way to Vice President Al Gore's The Climate Project, and earned me an invitation to join a dozen teens and hundreds of adults in Nashville, Tennessee, to listen to Mr. Gore speak about raising awareness about climate change. For 3 days, 12 hours a day, we learned about climate science and climate politics from experts and saw hundreds of Mr. Gore's slides that showed in graphic detail the harm that was being done to our planet and what we could do to reverse that. These next slides are a crash course on what you need to know to give context to my project, my WFUCA project, a regenerative bicycle brake. The greenhouse effect. Oh, perfect. When the sun's rays hit the Earth, most of it would be reflected back into outer space if it weren't for certain gases in the atmosphere called greenhouse gases. The most common greenhouse gases are CO2 and water vapor, and they help keep the Earth warm and from freezing over. But if there's too much CO2 in the atmosphere, trapped in the air above us, the Earth heats up even more. This slide, for Mr. Gore's presentation, shows how CO2 and the Earth's temperatures have risen over the last 2,000 years. Look at the right side of each graph. Recently, there has been a steep increase in CO2 and temperature, and it has been found that increased CO2 concentrations are directly responsible for this increase in global temperatures. Higher temperatures have a whole range of adverse effects on our environment. Hotter oceans change weather patterns. Changed weather patterns mean more hurricanes and storms that cause floods and destroy communities. Changed weather patterns mean more droughts and forest fires that parch farmland and reduce access to water. And changed weather patterns mean destroyed habitats, leading to extinction of some species. Higher temperatures also melt glaciers, which raise the sea level and decrease the number of rays that bounce from our Earth back into outer space, which heats up the Earth even more. Humans produce 16 billion tons of CO2 per year. Just focus on transportation, which spits out almost 2 million metric tons of CO2 a year in the US alone. This is largely caused by burning fossil fuels, which include oil used in gasoline, natural gas, and coal. Gasoline-burning cars are a big part of that. 1/5 of the world's CO2, the most abundant greenhouse gas, comes from gasoline-powered cars and trucks. Cars and trucks also produce chemicals in amounts thousands of times greater than natural levels, which pollute the air and cause lung illnesses the number 3 cause of death in the world, twice the death rate of AIDS. Human-caused CO2 is referred to as our carbon footprint. When a typical car drives 20 miles around town, it emits almost 22 pounds of CO2 into the atmosphere. Compare that to an electric car like a Tesla, which emits only 8 pounds despite no tailpipe emissions, and a bike, which is carbon neutral. Fast forward another 4 years, age 16. This year, I've been working on 2 big projects. The first is a regenerative bicycle brake. I ride my bike almost everywhere, and if you've ever biked, you would know how frustrating it is to stop and have to start again. One night while I was biking home from school, I was thinking about that day's lecture in physics on springs, and thought maybe there's a way to store the bike's energy in springs so that each time you brake, you don't have to exert quite as much energy when you want to start up again. This idea, if it worked, would make biking easier by giving riders an extra push, which would prompt more people to bike instead of drive, which in turn would improve their health and help our planet by reducing CO2 emissions. So I immediately started drawing it when I got home, how it would work. And if you look at number 5, in simple terms, the spring on the wheel stores the bike's energy captured when braking. Hand levers engage and disengage the spring, and releasing the spring propels the bike forward. There are 3 riding states. State 1 is normal riding, which is just pedaling and coasting. In these drawings, keep an eye on the large green circle, which is the outer bearing, the small green circle, which is the inner bearing, and the blue line, which represents the spring. In the normal riding mode, all 3 of these rotate freely with the wheel. State 2 is braking. As you normally would, press the brake lever on the handlebars. That engages brake pads that squeeze the small circle, which again is the inner bearing, instead of the wheel as would happen on a regular bike. Then the blue line, again the spring, winds around the inner bearing, which slows the bike down and stores the bike's kinetic energy in the spring. State 3 is for whenever you want the extra boost. Press another lever on the handlebars that engages brake pads that squeeze the outer bearing, which stops it from rotating. At the same time, brake pads on the inner bearing are released, letting that bearing rotate with the wheel, which moves the wheel forward. With the WFUCA grant money, I plan to build a prototype and make some for others to use. My other project this year is a mobile app for social entrepreneurs. Having run Kid Earth, I know how hard it is to let people know about your project and how hard it is to enlist their help. Make phone calls, send emails, distribute flyers, etc. The Soundboard app for cause creators changes all of that. The app gives social entrepreneurs an easy way to establish a web presence and promote and manage their cause campaign. With the content that they create, including pictures and words to help them gain donations and volunteers, in just 3 minutes, the app will generate a unique web page for their charity projects and allow cause creators to tell others about it quickly and broadly to social network groups, individuals, and volunteer teams. And it's free. For any of you who want to participate in this hands-on experience, if you would pull out your cell phones, smartphones, tablets, laptops, whatever you can connect to the internet with, I encourage you to visit this URL, soundboard.org/app/33, note the hyphen in between sound and board, to see a campaign app I made for the WFUCA. Wow. Wow. I understand there's no Wi-Fi here, so I don't blame you if you're not doing this. So here's how I did it. Step 1, I went to soundboard.org/app to create an account, which brought me to this page where I clicked Start Here. Next, I named my project, and I filled in the fields with everything I wanted for the web page. Yes. So you can include all sorts of things like a short cause pitch, project description. Optional are a website link to external donation pages, a picture from your device, the location of your project, your goals, your progress towards making those goals, etc. I mean, just everything basic that any kid, anyone who has a cause, we want to include on this website. And then, 3 minutes, max, press finish. Step 5, done. The project is waiting and ready to be shared with WFUCA's social networks and volunteers. Here is a list of the app's main features. Notice on the spot and on the go. Soundboard is designed for people out in the world, improving the world. With you and a smartphone or tablet, anyone you meet, anywhere, can volunteer, pledge support for your cause, make electronic donations, and if they're busy, you can email or text them with your project link and have it waiting for them when they get home to go to later. The app also works on laptops and desktops too. This summer, in addition to building my bike brake and monitoring app projects, I will be interning with Tesla Motors' battery division. Tesla, for those of you who don't know, is an electric car company based in my hometown of Palo Alto, California, and is a bike ride away from my home. While I'm helping Tesla will be helping me make my dream of emissions-free transportation a reality. Thank you. I have a couple things to share with you. The first is this video, which was played last night, but I understand some of you weren't there, so just let me know.
In this day and age, we lead busy lives, so we can't spend it living bumper to bumper. That's why here in Palo Alto, we cope with this problem by biking. It reduces traffic, combats obesity, all while saving the environment and saving money. On the other hand, it tires you out, makes you sweaty, and biking uphill and stopping is a pain. Our idea makes biking easier and more enjoyable.
Regenerative braking is the concept of saving the energy it takes to stop or slow down, and using that energy when it's time to go again. The way we're doing this is by storing that energy in springs that wrap around the axle, which the biker can release whenever they want to boost. The interesting thing about this mechanism, it's simple, it's cheap, it's light, and you can install it on your old bike.
Let's apply this technology to cars. Without much modification, we can improve performance with an automatic boost with every acceleration, saving gas, money, and time. It's much more efficient than current methods because energy stored goes right back into accelerating the car, and it can be used in both gas and electric cars.
It'll revolutionize the way we bike and drive. It'll get more people biking, reduce traffic, and promote healthier lifestyles, and in the end, we'll be commuting in a cleaner world.
So, next is a clip from this song, 100 Generations, I was talking about.
The air is getting warm, my eyes are burning. This is the biggest storm, the tide is turning. I see the waving wheat, I see the redwood tree. They wither in the heat, what will become of me? I feel fly into the wild, I am like a little child. You and I, we share the same elation. River run down from heaven's hill, ever flow, I know you well, lasting for 100 generations.
So I was 12 singing that, so as you can imagine, my voice is a little bit different. Thank you.
We are all impressed by this such a very good presentation, and we wish you success in your future that you want. If you can spend the time, it's up to you, but I think it's already big benefit. I think even as an idea, it's a good one. And you gave us another one confirmation that how it's important to give right book to our kids. Yeah? It's also a good example. And I'm like a father of 3 kids, and all the time I'm giving the books, but that's a good idea. Maybe I will change my source and give another one. And this idea, maybe it's a good idea with Tesla. And its history, you know that who was a Tesla? It was a Czech physician and mechanic. Finally, let me express my deep gratitude to all of you for bringing your experience and knowledge to this summit. And in order to build the future we want, we must start to support and develop talented and creative young generation like Aitan, you, and Sotam also. Finally, I'd like to close this session by speech, by words of Franklin Roosevelt. He said, we cannot always build the future for our youth, but we can build our youth for the future. So I think it's a major idea and goal we need to reach in all our movement. Thank you very much.
One word. If all of you are hopeful or there's despair, are you hopeful about the future? Given all the things you are seeing, or there's reason to despair. So I'd like you to say just 1 second, please.
This is what we are coming from, right? We have hope.
Okay.
Somebody?
2 or 3 years ago, I created the term, as I explained it in my speech, the will of heavens and the earth. This is the law of history researched by philosophy. And this will does not allow immoral things to last long. And this is very encouraging because powerless people have nothing to depend upon. But the will of heavens and the earth can reassure them that in the final end, all immoral things come to an end.
One hope. Next one.
Yeah, I'm too young to really say for sure, but I'm also too young to think that the world is, that society is coming to an end and that we have no hope. So I have nothing, I can only be hopeful, and I am hopeful.
Yeah, thank you. And I think following on, I suppose, from the young person who's hopeful, for me, when I work a lot with teenagers as well, I work a lot with young people, and I see the great programs and projects that they're coming up with. But I think that they need, we do need to listen more, we need to heed more, and there is a sense of urgency. There is, this, and I think that what we need is, we need real political will from around all of our governments and from all around the world. If we want to make sustainability really, really happen, we need political will. And I think that the driver currently, and the driver still is, economic development. And I think that what has happened, for example, in Ireland, we've come through a recession of 6 years, coming out with what they call green shoots. But we had a Celtic tiger. The Celtic tiger was economic growth at any cost, really. And I think that, but there are people who are looking back to that economic growth saying, this is what we want again. And I think we have to stop that, and I think we have to change the way we do things, and I think we have to change the way that our economies are running. And I think that things, they have to change at that level. Am I hopeful? Yes, I think I have to be hopeful. I mean, we're all here being hopeful. We all want to work together to try to make things happen, and that's what the UNESCO Clubs movement does. And that's what it does on the ground, from the grassroots upwards, from the civil society. Yeah.
So I can't say that I haven't had my moments of despair studying environmental studies in college. It can be rough. But actually, Al Gore is an inspiration to a lot of us, I guess, because my little story is I went to go to Al Gore's Climate Reality Project, which is an organization he started, and we actually asked the man who was speaking to us, how do you retain hope when so little has been accomplished? And he said, how are you going to accomplish anything if you don't have hope? Like, the only way you're going to ever do anything is if you have hope. So you can't not be hopeful. You have to be hopeful.
Yes, we all have to be hopeful. I think, we cannot say that our past history is not doing anything good. I would say we just have to do things right at the right moment. We have some problem created by in the past, but it doesn't mean the past is not good. That's why we are all coming here today, and yes, we have some problem, and I think most important is we all are sitting together to get things done and for our young people for the future. Of course, we all are hopeful that we have a very bright future. Thank you.